Hello and welcome to the Actual Tech Media EcoCast. My name is Jess and I am excited to be here with you all today. But before we jump into our content, I have some basic information that I want to cover with you. All right, let's kick off our day here today by taking a quick tour of your audience console. And we're going to start with the questions window. So if you haven't already said hi, there is a whole audience of cool humans out there, so reach out and give a wave to the other members of the Actual Tech Media community. Now, keep in mind that if you do have any technical issues today, a browser refresh is going to fix just about anything. But if those tech gremlins are clinging on today, no problem. Just throw a comment in the question section and our crew will be there to help. We also want this to be an informative webinar for you, so throughout today's EcoCast, we hope you'll get engaged and ask all your burning questions. Not only will we have team members responding to you over a live chat, we will also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of our presentations. Now, if we don't get to your question during the live webinar today, don't worry, because the awesome experts that we have here with us will be following up after we wrap. All right, next up, there's going to be lots of cool aha moments on the EcoCast today. And if you want to share those with your community, we've made it nice and easy for you. You can use the Twitter button right there in your audience console, and the hashtag for today's EcoCast will be automatically added to your post. All right, our last stop on this guided tour, be sure to check out the handouts tab for some awesome resources and takeaways from our speakers here today. We have an info pack collection, solution briefs, white papers, data sheets, free trials, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and more. So many great resources, so be sure to go explore. Now, if that wasn't enough fun, we also have some exciting prizes that we'll be giving away throughout today's EcoCast. I'm going to tell you a bit more about those later on, but a few quick reminders for you all. First, you do need to be here live in attendance at the EcoCast in order to qualify to win a prize, and we will follow up with all of you after we wrap. Now, all winners must submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media, and all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. Now, if you don't know what those full T's and C's are, that's fine. We've got the full thing for you. Just head on over to that handouts tab, click in, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll find them waiting for you there. Now, the absolute most important thing to remember is that we love getting all your insightful questions during these live webinars. In fact, we love it so much that we actually have a special additional prize for all you inquisitive folks out there. So in today's EcoCast, we will be giving away a prize for the best question asked in each of our live sessions. Now, the expert speakers and teams will review all questions asked after we wrap the webinar, which means that even if your question does not get read out in a live session, there is still a chance to win. If you are a lucky winner here today and you would like to donate the value of your prize, we have several wonderful organizations that we partner with. So let us know when we follow up about your big win, and we'll get that rolling for you. Again, we are so happy to have you all here with us live at the EcoCast today, and we want to keep that good feeling going, so let's connect on social media. Reach out and connect with Actual Tech Media on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We have lots of great content, and we always want to hear from you. Now, if you're looking for more awesome content and resources right after we wrap the EcoCast today, be sure to subscribe to the Actual Tech Media channel on YouTube. Another fun way to win a prize and, hey, grow this awesome community is to refer an industry friend or a coworker to the Actual Tech Media webinar series. Now, you'll find a link to do that right in your handouts tab, and you will also be automatically redirected at the end of the webinar. And both you and your coworker or friend could win a prize, and we hold those drawings every month. So be sure to refer a friend because, it could quite literally be a win-win situation. Next, we have a cool opportunity for all the decision makers out there to get connected with new and emerging tech and innovative vendors. Here's how it works. All you need to do is click on the link in your handouts tab, fill out a quick application, and the Actual Tech crew will then match you with some vendors that we think you should probably be chatting with based on your needs. There will also be fun opportunities that you get to choose to join in, like surveys, test runs, new solutions, extended demos, and so on. You'll get some chances to win extra prizes, you'll chat with great people, and you'll learn about the hottest new trends in tech. So be sure to apply, or hey, send that link to a decision maker on your team. Now, I want to take a quick minute here to remind you all about one of my favorite resources, and that is ransomware.org. You can find out everything you need to know about ransomware, how to prepare, prevent, and recover. This site is jam-packed with information, helpful tips, checklists, strategic approaches, case studies, everything you need in one place. So wherever you are in your ransomware preparedness journey, there is something for you at ransomware.org. Go check it out and start exploring. All right, I have one more exciting resource I have to tell you about today, and that is the Gorilla Guide Book Club. It's going to give you access to free enterprise IT books authored by top industry experts, so you can stay up to date on trending enterprise technology. And yes, these books will work on your Kindle, your mobile device, and as I said, they are completely free. You can download these awesome resources at gorilla.guide, and there's a link for you in that handouts tab as well. All right, well, we have covered a lot of important things already, and I don't know about you all, but I am excited to dive in. So let's get going. All right, my friends. Well, it is time to jump into the good stuff here, because today we are talking about AI in the media. Is AI and ML just another name for automation? And this is such a cool conversation to be a part of, because AI is everywhere these days. And whether we are excited or terrified, we are talking about it. But there's danger sometimes when these ideas and terms become ubiquitous, right? We almost start to use them as a catch-all phrase, and we stop actually paying attention to the nuance. So today we get to dive in a bit deeper and explore how AI is actually impacting and enhancing opportunities for broadcasters just like all of you. Now, best of all, we get to chat with some incredible speakers here today. We have our keynote speaker and a top expert with us from Quantum. They are both here with us to share their solutions, tips, trends, and best practices. I am excited to get into this conversation with all of you today. I hope that you will get engaged. I love all the happy Halloween wishes. A few of you got me already with some good Halloween hellos. So please do keep getting engaged as we go through our day today. And speaking of that, before we jump in, I have a few little bits of information that I'm going to cover with all of you, just to make sure that you get the most out of our time here together. So once again, reintroducing myself, my name is Jess Steinbach. I'm a moderator here with Actual Tech Media, and my friends and fellow moderators, Scott Becker and Keith Ward, are here with us on live chat today. Now, before I get into our keynote speaker, I have one last exciting piece of news for you all, and that is, of course, prizes. So as you can see on the screen, you could today win one of three $300 Amazon gift cards. We are going to be giving those away to 3 lucky winners who are here live and present at the EcoCast. And as I mentioned in the housekeeping chat this morning, you can find the full terms and conditions linked for you in the handouts tab. So if you have any questions about that, head on over to that handouts tab and you'll find them waiting for you there. All right, folks. Well, with that, it is time to dive into our first keynote session here of the day. And it looks like my slides are just taking their sweet time uploading. We've got a few ghosts in the system today, very, very apropos of the day. There's a few, normally it's tech gremlins, but today I think those tech ghosts have got us. But as you can see on the slide, we have our keynote speaker here who has been in the industry for a long time and has no shortage of interesting insights to add to our conversation. And that is, of course, Phil Kurz, contributing editor, TV Tech. And Phil's going to give us a little bit of insight into some AI, ML, and whether or not this is just the same thing as automation or something a little more nuanced. So with that, Phil, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to hand things right on over to you. Take it away.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. For those who don't know me, I'm Phil Kurz, a contributing editor to TV Tech and tvtech.com. I'm here today to talk about AI and machine learning in media. Specifically, are AI and ML just another name for automation? That's an important question because AI and ML aren't isolated in some sort of tech bubble. They need to be viewed in the context of other media and entertainment industry trends. Among them are the adoption of cloud-based workflows, whether whole hog or as a supplement to existing on-prem workflows, the never-ending drive to control costs and improve workflow efficiency, the quest for more efficient video encoding to make the best use of limited bandwidth, and the growing flood of content available to consumers, which increases pressure on studios, broadcasters, and other media organizations to maximize creativity to win eyeballs and ultimately grow revenue. Viewed through the lens of these and other developments, it's easy to conclude that yes, indeed, AI and ML are other names for automation. After all, a rose is a rose is a rose. However, it's just as easy to conclude that AI and ML are so much more. Let's take a look at both. Media organizations, both on-prem and in the cloud, are using these tools to automate common media production workflow tasks and to enable new complementary capabilities unimaginable a few years ago. For example, speech-to-text recognition algorithms or automating the closed captioning and subtitling tasks traditionally performed by humans. While people continue to perform these tasks, the use of AI and ML algorithms in this role is growing and will only continue to expand as accuracy continues to improve. The combination of these algorithms with those that translate languages holds the key to automating content localization for consumption by viewers around the world. Now let's look at these same speech-to-text algorithms along with facial, emotional, and object recognition in the context of searching content for a specific clip. Before you can automate a search, you have to distinguish what you want to find from the rest. Here, speech-to-text, facial recognition, object recognition, and emotional recognition algorithms can be used to create far richer metadata for each frame of video than would be imaginable with a manual process. With that metadata, nearly instant search and retrieval of desired clips from a media asset management system is possible, with the implications for a vast number of media workflows. Here, AI and ML are functioning as enablers. One step removed is the automation aspect, enabling automated content searches by reporters, by editors in post-production, and by sports producers building highlight reels. Perhaps most importantly, for organizations looking to make their content libraries searchable, these algorithms hold the key to boosting revenue and lowering costs, whether it's by licensing existing clips to other media companies for their projects or making better use of archival footage in their own ongoing work. Paired with generative AI, the ability to search media archives may soon automate building rough cuts in some circumstances. By the way, AI video generators are already available that create charts for consumers. On the other hand, AI and ML aren't simply automating workflows in these examples. In many, as noted, they're enabling previously unavailable capabilities that were either once too difficult or expensive to take on. Examples abound of AI and ML enablers. For instance, companies specializing in video encoding now rely on AI to pre-process frames before they're compressed to minimize how much bandwidth is needed to stream or transmit content. Another example is the use of AI to interpolate between video frames shot at regular speed to synthesize super slow motion, an application that enables, for example, sports producers to bring slow motion replays to more shots, improve their overall production, and presumably capture more eyeballs. While we're at it, speaking of sports, what about the role AI is playing and will play in generating game stats, better informed commentator insights, and graphics for games? All of these are or soon will be examples of AI acting as an enabler of better content. Let me pause here for an aside. There have been countless articles written about generative AI since ChatGPT exploded onto the scene about a year ago. The first to sound the alarm were teachers and professors who worried that ChatGPT would kill the essay and the term paper and leave its prints far beyond English class. Next came other implementations of generative AI to create art, music, fiction, and more. Naturally, that's caused a bit of unease in the M&E industry among creatives who wonder if their specialty, whether it's 3D animation, video and sound editing, video effects, color correction, and other tasks, will give way to generative AI. Personally, I believe that on the whole, generative AI will help creatives get better, relieving them of many of the tedious aspects of their specialty, revealing new creative opportunities, and making it possible to bring more energy to their specialty. Of course, it would be naive to think all of these specialties will go unchanged, but on the whole, as someone who makes a living engaged in a creative endeavor, I do not fear these tools, nor do I think others should. Returning to the question on the table, are AI and ML the next logical step in content automation or enablers of a stream of workflow and content improvements? I think the best answer is it's not an either or. It's simply a yes. Yes, AI and ML power automation. And yes, they are enablers. As we've seen in many circumstances, the automation and enabler aspects of AI and ML are simply two different sides of the same coin. In the end, however, the most important takeaway from this little talk isn't really about the nature of AI and ML. It's more about what you and your organization are looking at doing with the important new tool sets available thanks to artificial intelligence and machine learning. While deciding exactly what is AI and ML from a functional perspective, it is an automation tool or it is an enabler, that may never be decided. But one thing is clear: media organizations can benefit today from these tools. Those that are looking to or already have deployed AI and ML are positioning themselves to compete from a position of strength. Thanks. That's all for me. Enjoy the rest of the podcast.
I mean, podcast, EcoCast, same, Phil. Yeah. Phil, thank you very much for that presentation. Lots of great information covered. Now, I have a bit of a question for all of you, and there's a question up on the screen, but I'm going to throw in a little freebie question here too, and because I need to know, what do you guys think about candy corn? Is candy corn candy? Is that a real candy? I keep going back and forth. I feel like it's like mostly wax. I don't know. What do you guys think? Also, follow-up question to that. Are the different colors of candy corn actually different flavors? They all kind of taste the same to me. So I need to know what you guys think. If that isn't enough of a question for you, we're also wondering about your timeline. What we're curious about is what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? So for some of you, maybe you're thinking a little bit more short term. You need to make changes right away. For some of you, you might be thinking that you need AI ML solutions maybe in the far distant future, and you're just kind of strategizing right now. So wherever you're at in your journey, in your research phases, click on that poll. Let us know. This is just going to help our speaker here today kind of make sure that he's hitting you with the information that you need based on your timelines. Okay, I see I've got some candy corn is sweet and edible and hence still candy, unfortunately. Brian, I hear you. Okay, candy corn is the devil's introduction to psychedelia. Okay, Gilbert, some strong feelings about candy corn. Please keep those coming. I want to hear it. I want all your votes on this. Well, you know what? Well, let's turn it to the experts. Let's see what our expert speaker thinks about this. I'm going to bring Skip on out here with you, and I am so excited to introduce you all to our incredible expert presenter here, kicking off this EcoCast today, and that is, of course, Skip Levins, Marketing Director, Media and Entertainment at Quantum. Skip, now I know you have a lot of great information to get into for us today, and we want to leave some time for questions. But before I hand things over to you, what do you think, Skip? Candy corn, candy or no?
Oh, candy corn, absolutely candy. And yes, the yellow stripe and the orange stripe and the white stripe all taste the same. So
okay, great. So yes, strong feelings about candy corn across the board here. All right, well, Skip, with that, I'm going to hand things over to you. Take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate it so much. Appreciate, being invited to speak and talk about this topic. And, to the poll question, if you're thinking about what to do, how to automate your production, thinking about how AI and ML can help you, whether it's in the next month or so or the next year, I think it's pretty clear that this is a technology and this feels like a shift in technology. And it kind of makes one wonder, is this how everyone riding along in their horse carriages and seeing the car go by and thinking, I think the industry's changing. And it has a lot of hallmarks of that kind of moment. There's this intersection of technology, and it's just fascinating how a tool that was once the purview of, let's face it, computer science geeks, people that cared a lot about computer vision techniques and how to analyze an image and reduce it down to its color strength and try and make decisions about areas and things like that, that now these general purpose AI and machine learning tools that are actually modeled a bit on the human brain. So they work in similar ways. A little neuron does a piece of processing that hands off to another one in these layers. And sometimes we can't explain how it got its end result. But where that was once the purview of people that had spent years and years studying this, you can now go easily, even trivially, create kind of amazing content for those of us that are not visually creative and turn out images like the ones you see here. So, and a lot of the uses are, may seem kind of trivial, like, oh, it's silly, but But in all stages of production, almost everything surrounding what we do as storytellers, whether it's for a sports audience or a news audience or short or long form production, is going to be impacted by the prevalence and the capability of these tools. So today we're going to talk and really sort of set the stage at like what's a good way to think about it and kind of arm you with some good basic knowledge so that you can evaluate them. And probably the first thing we'll do is draw a distinction between generative AI and non-generative. So generative is, kind of a shorthand way to think of it is where there was not content before, we create it. And in this case, again, I can't draw, but I can write. So as we're compiling an ebook about this to send out to you, it's like, well, of course we have to ask AI tools to generate kind of a vaguely sci-fi cover. So it's really interesting. These tools take our input and parse the language and then sort of, decompile it in a way and then compare it to a mountain of images and words that have been poured into it. And it synthesizes those back out in multiple ways. And sometimes they're very surprising. Sometimes changing one of these words gets you a totally different result. So it's now an artist, someone with actual visual training would look at this and have a lot of questions like, what exactly is on their heads, and why is the robot flying over the other robot that needs an air cane for some reason? So these are not perfect images, but they are generated quickly, and it's a tremendous jumping off point. And I think this is a theme with a lot of these tools, not replacing human creativity or intelligence, but we can harness it to spur human creativity. So, in this particular case, sure, a close-up, heroic people and robots. Fantastic. So that's generative. And you're starting to see these tools trickle into many of the tools that content creators use. I mean, Photoshop, for example, with the update in the past couple days, you simply drag the canvas size and tell it that, and tell it to extend the image off the edge. Boom. Many of these tools are starting to get these rather purpose-built AI tools. But we want to talk about the other side of the coin, which is non-generative. So non-generative is more along the field and probably an area familiar to many of you, which is let's search for meaning inside content that we are in the middle of producing or content libraries that we've been accumulating. So I hope you've been keeping your B-rolls and your extra shots, because with AI and ML, we can go log it. And for example, now there's file metadata, and that would be the date the file was created and how large it is, that sort of thing. Then there's the intrinsic media metadata inside, things like, that are embedded in, say, video files, what camera it was, often the location. Your iPhone records GPS information, for example, and attaches it to the image, that sort of stuff. And that's always been included in things like an asset manager. So if I upload, in this case, some B-roll, it'll then, if that information exists, we'll pull it out and associate it with that image. But what about all the things happening in the image that in the past I would have needed a logger to convince that person to sit behind the keyboard and say person, car, bicycle, etc. And as you can imagine, that's a very that's a boring task. And in fact, it's even a subjective task. So at the beginning of a logging session, it might be very crisp and very sharp, and towards the end, might not be as sharp. And so this suggests that if we have an AI or ML tool that can do this for us, even if it's not perfect, thinking back to our images, even if they're not perfect, it can get us very close. And if it's integrated into a tool like this one and correlated on the timeline, well, then now we can do some really interesting things with our media. Rather than having someone log it, we can say, show me sidewalk, bike, car, and I will be taken directly to bits of media that show me exactly that. So that's non-generative, pulling information out of content we already have. And that's the area that can really supercharge not only your ongoing production, but take huge bits of archive footage that you have and make it easier to search and easier to get ready to go find a new audience. So some of these actions on this content, so there's, these again kind of fall into a couple different areas. So there's enhancement, and you're probably familiar. There over the past several years, there have been a lot of services that will do things like conform content for you. Is it in the right size? Are there no bright flashes? That sort of thing. And these were external services that kind of had a rather narrow focus of what they did. But one of those was absolutely the upscaling, taking smaller resolution files and, for example, something that may have been digitized for a 4:3 aspect, let's bring it to 16:9 and make it 4K. Now, what's different? So this may seem very familiar, but in this example, if you can see it well, the image on the left was simply scaled up. So in a way, all those pixels were just doubled up, and it tends to give you a fuzzy image. And if you look under the number plate, you can really see in the image in front this sort of stair-stepping motion on that diagonal line. So that's just simple upscaling. But with an AI enhanced tool where we can then actually teach it to do things like smooth those diagonal lines and reduce this sort of stair-step model. So in this particular case, the one on the right, you can see that the line under the number plate is far smoother, and the overall picture just seems crisper and something you can confidently broadcast at a higher resolution. But there are a lot of other tools. So upscaling, even taking the audio, automatically removing background noise, pops and hisses, that sort of thing, removing digitization artifacts. And so all kinds of things that are similar to tools that have been around for a while. But what happens when you can chain those together to suit your particular need, or perhaps a certain kind of profile of content that you're perhaps you've just digitized and now you want to get it ready? Beyond that is this notion of meaning that we talked about, and one of the most powerful ones is transcription. So if there's any audio happening in video, for example, it'll generate a transcription far, far faster than real time, and can also do translations on top of that. It may hear dialogue in a different language and go ahead and capture that and translate it if you like. But it gets really interesting when you do things like object identification. What are a basket of known objects that might be of interest and you might want to search for? But then how about when it actually gets to the point where it's describing a scene or identifying specific logos that you probably care about quite a bit? You either really want to broadcast them or make sure not to broadcast certain logos. And how about if you can not only identify individual people so you can find them in all of your video, but maybe pair it with tools that do things like emotion, like categorizing emotion, happy, sad, joyful. So happy, happy, joyful, and car, for example, might give you a bunch of hits on all the content you already have that would be ideal for pulling together into a new package or or something that you're producing. So that's finding the hidden meaning in content you already have. Incredibly interesting field. So as you're thinking about this and sort of, we sort of talk through what these kind of tools can do for you, I will say, like anything, like any technology that's obviously in the news. There are numerous startups chasing different parts of this field. There's tremendous open source innovation happening, and it seems like there's changes every day. So I would definitely say that, like any great technology field of innovation like we're finding, there are both challenges and opportunities. So the challenges, putting our workflow and producer hat on, is that, the main challenge is this actually disruptive to ongoing content production? Hitting deadlines, and there's always something going on. Can we harness it in a way that it is not disrupting ongoing production? That's pretty much job one. Job two is figuring out how to take these tools that are so interesting and have such such compelling results, and realizing that if they're not implemented correctly, means that there's no automation. It's things have to happen when someone has to push a button or make something happen, and nothing happens automatically, which again introduces lag or can sort of bring a production line to a halt. And probably the flip side of that is having to jump into one tool. Let's say you have to jump into one tool to do a transcription, and then back into your editor or back into your asset management system. And this sort of change in tools itself leads to some, can lead to slowing down the workflow. And probably the other is that with so many tools and so many different API, and so many services are in the cloud, some are local, it can kind of be chaotic. So that's definitely the challenges to work through if you're considering implementing a solution like this. But the opportunities are, especially if you have a system that's integrated into your local, say, editing environment, is that this is technology that can live entirely in your environment. So you've probably spent a lot of time making sure that the content you produce is secure and is only worked on by your team, and isn't something that has to be sent off-site unless you're prepared for that. So you get a measure of content production security and protect your content. The other piece is that we've all been building these solutions and building out storage and building out asset management systems on fast storage and using local servers. So it's pretty well understood that if I have a rendering pipeline or a stack of servers with GPUs, how much performance you're going to get out of those, and you're not waiting perhaps for cloud-based services that where a lot of times the services can be throttled or slowed down. At least if it's in your environment, exactly how much performance you can get from them. But another really interesting aspect of this that's not immediately apparent is that these AI and ML tools can be further trained for your specific content need. And that extra training that you do is yours. You don't have to release that back out to the community if you don't want to. So you have the prospect of automating work that is specifically tied to the kind of work that you do, and making that sort of secret sauce your own. So just a couple other pieces as you're evaluating these solutions. Artificial intelligence, machine learning gets thrown around a lot. And if you hear the word artificial intelligence, what's often brought to mind is an artificial person that responds perfectly to everything. And when you're typing into these systems like ChatGPT, it can almost feel like, dogs just stood up and started talking. It's like, whoa, how did it do that? But an actual science of building an artificial intelligence is not like that. AI, artificial intelligence, is sort of the umbrella term for this whole field of study. Another term you probably heard and might be more familiar to those of you that work with video or image files is the notion of computer vision, where you do things like average out the pixels to get a sort of color reading and that sort of thing. So those techniques that would probably be done in software development is computer vision, and there's a form of that going on in these machine learning models, and they're often called neural net machine learning models because there are little interconnected nodes that actually process this content, and they're interconnected very similarly to the way neurons in the human brain are. So layers and layers of these subsequently transform content until you arrive at the result you're looking for. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. So, and what the impact is. But, to spend a minute on this whole notion of, it's not just the canned or out of the box AI that's available to you. What's really powerful and can really, become competitive advantage for you is this notion of custom action training. So you've got a general purpose machine learning model. And let's say your expertise is sports content, soccer / football. And you may have experts that are world-class good at distinguishing different types of action that happens on the field. But if we can teach that to a machine learning model, and there's one called SoccerNet that we implemented inside our asset management system, and you get all of these actions that it's able to recognize happening on the field, and they're flagged and keyed on the video timeline. Individual players, individual actions, goals, red flag, yellow flag, ball thrown in, that sort of thing. And that means you can now jump immediately to those different flags, find the content you need very, very quickly without anyone having to log it for you. So it can be an incredible time saver. And very similarly, if there's other similar action you want to train the system to recognize, that's easily done. And what it means, of course, is that you may be sitting on huge archives of B-roll and older footage that has a super fan somewhere, and the way to get it ready for people to find it and use it would be tools exactly like this. So if you're ever curious, we'll just spend a second on this. The general steps to training your own AI and ML model sounds terrifically complicated, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So, essentially, in this example, for whatever reason, let's say we have millions of shots and we just want to find the ones that are at the beach, at the seaside. And in this case, you can see they're mixed in with these office cubicle ones. So color-wise, it might be hard to distinguish between office and beach. So what we will actually do, though, without over-prescribing how the system is going to distinguish between the two, we simply create a data set. Let's say it's a couple hundred pictures and we tag it as beach, and a couple hundred pictures we tag as the office, or maybe not beach. Then we introduce them to a neural network to start with. And when it first sees, is introduced to these images, all of its settings about how to distinguish what's different about each of these photos is completely random. And just the simple act of reinforcing the correct answers, the system learns which of its randomized assumptions were correct, and then it gets increasingly better at distinguishing between beach shots and not beach shots. It's kind of an amazing thing. And in fact, we don't know exactly how it arrives at many of its answers. We just know if it reaches the correct conclusions on these. And then, of course, to make sure it didn't actually memorize the photos or figure out a way that can't handle new information, we'll test it on even more beach shots without tagging them and see if it gets the correct answer. And then it's a matter of putting the model in production. So those basic steps are absolutely within the reach of anyone wanting to add this technology to your production pipeline. So just to give you a peek at this, I mentioned that these tools should be integrated into the tools you already use. And in our case, we chose CatDV, which is our media asset management system. And the reason we could do that is that it has a workflow orchestration engine. And this could be as simple as watching a drop folder and then taking RAWs and making proxies or moving a copy of something somewhere else. Well, this is easily extended to invoke via, we wrote an AI NML API gateway to access multiple different libraries that perform all those actions. And that very same workflow orchestration then can invoke all these different actions in the order that you need it done on these systems. So that's essentially how simple architecturally this can be for you. So I got to say, that was really kind of a very fast, high-level look at production and how AI and ML can automate your process, but it truly is. It feels a bit like a revolution, and it feels like that this technology will absolutely, touch every one of us in every aspect of production. One of the points, often raised is this going to replace human expertise? And I say no. It was actually trained on human expertise and wouldn't be anywhere if it hadn't been trained on human expertise. And, in the examples at the very beginning, they were, or even a transcription or a translation. Rather than having a full-blown team of transcribers and translators, we can instead offload this repetitive sort of drudge work to AI and ML, and then work on the interesting bits, and work on getting the nuance and the polish that an AI or ML system wouldn't do. So I think it is really a spur to further creativity, and a tremendously exciting field, and lots of different ways to add it into your workflow. I will say that as you can imagine, this technology never stands still. It's always changing. The models are improving, and there's new sources, and some of the best ideas we get as we're implementing this for customers come from real world customer examples, and they all start with a question, which is, gee, I wish I could do X. For example, one of them is, I'm a news content aggregator, and I digitized a bunch of content, and none of the presenters in there are tagged. So I can try and go get project money put together to go tag it all, or we could teach AI to recognize a certain presenter. So for this customer, we actually all the panels in CatDV are changeable. So we actually put a button where you can upload images and say, this is presenter A. And then I believe it took only about 4 or 5 of those images. And then you could, right within CatDV, go check if it was able to correctly tag that presenter. And once that's done, you can now turn it loose on all of your content. And now you're able to find that presenter in your entire archive. So again, some of the best ideas come from, the kind of struggles customers are having. So hopefully that gave you a good overview of how AI and ML can help you enhance content and speed production. We work very closely with NVIDIA. So if this is of interest to you, have a look at quantum.com/NVIDIA. And all of this content in more detail is being prepared for you in an ebook that we will be sending out very soon. So with that, Jess, I mean, are there other questions perhaps?
Yeah, Skip, that was awesome. Thank you so much. And we do have some questions coming in. Before we do that, I'm just going to move. I want to give everyone a last chance to click on that link, but also please know that that link is actually in the handouts tab as well. So if you've missed the link, and I'm moving on over to a poll question for all of you, or if you want to access this once we've kind of moved on in the conversation, please do head on over to that handouts tab and be sure you've got that opened and start exploring that resource center from Quantum and NVIDIA. It's a really interesting opportunity to kind of dig in a little bit further on everything that we just heard from Skip. And what you can see up on the screen here is a poll question for all of you. What we're wondering is what additional information you would like to get about the quantum solution. So maybe don't think of it as a poll question. Think of it as like a shopping list. This is your wish list. What would be the most helpful resources for Quantum to send your way? So data sheets and white papers, case studies, whatever's going to be useful for you, click on that little shopping list right there, and then the team will follow up with you. And while you're doing that, Skip and I are going to dive into some questions. Skip, are you ready?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. And I do want to say I really appreciate this conversation. Is very nuanced and it's evolving even as we're having it. And I think it's a really interesting one to kind of dig into and explore. So we got a lot of questions that are maybe a little philosophical as well as some that are a little practical. We're a little short on time, so I'm going to try to do one of each. So I'm going to start with one that's a little more practical. What do you think about the expertise level that's needed? We had a question here saying, do I have to know AI and ML before I can start implementing it in my environment? So, Photoshop, generative fill, everything's a little different. So maybe for somebody out there might be feeling a little overwhelmed by trying to learn how to use all these different tools. What do you think is required in terms of knowledge base?
Well, I think like any new field, curiosity is your best tool. As these tools start hitting Adobe, for example, experiment with them and, go to ChatGPT, which is now a multimodal system and talk to it. And I think you'll quickly realize that the tool, is very capable, but it's got limitations. And so finding the edges of that limitation, for example, ask it to write you an outline for a story or for an editorial. And you'll kind of recognize that it's, they kind of start sounding generally the same. And it takes quite a bit of engineering or prompt engineering to sort of get different results. So you'll very quickly learn how the tools work and get a sense of them. And, with the information from today and in this ebook, I think you'll be in a great position between that information and having experimented with it to really evaluate these tools in your environment.
That actually feeds in really nicely to maybe what could be potentially a little bit philosophical as well. And it's a question here from Rob, wondering about when we're talking about LLMs, do you see that there's going to be a change in focusing from AI prompt engineering to AI problem formulation? So are we going to transition to less of, hey, do this exact thing and then do this next exact thing, to more of a strategic, here's where I want you to get, form a strategy to get me there?
That, Rob, is a fantastic question, and what you're heading towards is the pressure and the evolution of the tools themselves to go from a very specific to a more general task, and we are advancing up the ladder towards that. The notion of true artificial intelligence. More and more abstract questions leading to more thought, if you will, on the part of these tools. It's a really interesting field. But for the moment, yes, it's sort of about sort of engineering or sort of emphasizing different parts to sort of get an answer. But I would say that these tools, almost need to be sort of a spray hose. It's like, it's almost better to try, okay, give me 10 responses. And then you can zero in on one. A lot of times, if you ever had writer's block, it's sort of interesting to ask or work with the AI tools as a sort of consultant. So not telling you what to write, but sort of giving you ideas. And this sort of combination of your expertise and these tools together, I think, means that AI is not taking our jobs. It's not taking anyone's jobs. It's sort of rewarding those who figure out how to use it to augment what you already do. Because you're right. You're talking about what is special and unique about human creativity. And frankly, these tools can mimic it very closely. But true innovation and something truly new is really hard to chase. It's that spark that's really hard to define, but very special.
Yeah, I heard a great metaphor recently, and somebody was talking about it almost like Iron Man, and that when Iron Man puts on the suit, Tony Stark doesn't become a robot. Tony Stark is still a human with augmented abilities. And thinking about AI as sort of putting Jarvis on you and your own existing brain power was kind of an interesting way to think about it. You know what, Skip, I wish we could keep going with this conversation because there's so much more to dig into, but I've already kept you a bit past time. I apologize for that, but I wanted to make sure we got into a few questions, and there's a few more that we haven't gotten to. So I'm going to make sure that all of these questions get sent to your team so that you can follow up with them. Skip, before you leave us though, if you had to give sort of a first step to getting started with quantum, if somebody wants to learn more or jump right in, what would you recommend as that first step?
Probably the first step is, go through material like this just to get, comfortable with the general concepts, and have a visit at quantum.com/NVIDIA. And one of our favorite things our team does is talk with people, not trying to sell anything, but hearing about your content challenges. And if we can help give you 4 or 5 different ways AI could help make things easier, or repeat something that's perhaps error prone or hard to get done unless you have a big team of loggers, that's what we love to do. So reach out.
I love that. And with anything, and I think and I know I said I was going to let you go, and now I'm giving you a good old Minnesota goodbye and keeping you around longer. But I really feel that the thing you said when we first started our Q&A about curiosity is something that I hope everyone kind of walks away mulling over, that is the greatest tool, because sometimes these things, we can have 2 responses with new and exciting and shiny tools, right? One is to rush right in without really thinking, and the other one is to get paralyzed by the overwhelming option and opportunity of it. And I think staying curious is a great way to approach from either end and help find that middle ground where you can be excited and jump in and get started, but also make sure that it's a tool that's going to work for you and that you're using it in a way that's best for your organization. So I appreciate that, Skip. I think that was some really good wisdom for our audience today.
Well said. Thank you.
We're a good team here, Skip. I hope that we get to chat with you again in the future, and I want to thank you again for being here with us.
Yeah, thanks again. Look forward to the next time.
All right, and to all of you out there who are clean on the poll or shopping list, as we said, keep that coming, keep that wish list going, make sure you get all the resources that you want and follow up. I will also recommend again that you head on over to the handouts tab. Be sure that you've clicked on that handout link and that you have that resource center up and saved so that you can explore that a little bit after we wrap here. And then before we head out, I know you're all counting the minutes here at home and wondering, when are we getting to that prize giveaway? And the answer is right now, my friends. The time is now. We're going to give away 3 of those Amazon gift cards. Those are $300 Amazon gift cards to people that are here live and present at the EcoCast, at the spooky Halloween spooktacular EcoCast. We should have made it a lot scarier for all of you. I apologize for that. But you know what? If you're like me, maybe you need a break from all the Halloween gore and things that are getting recommended on your viewing list these days. All right, so our three $300 Amazon gift cards are going to Matthew Handler of Illinois, John Shepard of California, and Krishna Datta, also of California. I'm going to do that list one more time. That's Matthew Handler of Illinois, John Shepard of California, and Krishna Datta of California. You guys have all won $300 Amazon gift cards, and we will follow up with you after we wrap. Now, I also want to remind you all that there is a $50 Amazon gift card available to the best question asked from our session, and that is still open. So if you have a question and you haven't asked it, get it in now, because we are going to make sure that all the questions asked get sent over to Quantum. So you will have a chance to get an answer back, and you're entered to win that $50 best question gift card. So win, 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 win. All right, so make sure you've got those questions coming in. And with that, we're going to start bringing things on to a close here, my friends. And I do want to remind you all that if you are on the webinar today and you're thinking that this has seemed like a good time, you'd like to get involved, you think you have a solution you'd like to present at a future summit, EcoCast, or MegaCast webinar, whatever you've got in mind, we would love to hear from you. We would love to get that conversation started. So please do shoot us an email at connect@actualtechmedia.com. All right, well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank our awesome speaker once again. Thank you so much, Skip from Quantum, for making this EcoCast possible. And a big and of course, always the largest thank you going to all of you out there for attending, for asking some great questions. I really had an awesome time talking today about candy corn. That was an important, we got to the bottom of that. We're okay with candy corn. And apparently the flavors, the colors are different flavors. That was our key takeaway. Everyone go do some taste testing later and let us know. But, also, and perhaps slightly more importantly, we got into some of the opportunities and the challenges when we're talking about technology, and especially AI and ML in media. So I hope that all of you out there have got some interesting ideas, some tips, maybe some best practices. Maybe you're feeling fired up to engage that curiosity mode and start doing some research on your own. And that is, of course, the absolute best takeaway from these conversations. We're just scratching the surface of these really interesting topics, and I hope that you all walk away feeling lit up and ready to jump in and explore a little further on your own. And speaking of exploring further, before you take off today, make sure you mark your calendars and come back and join us on Wednesday, November 1st. I realize that it is Halloween, and somehow I still did not register that Wednesday, tomorrow, is already November. So that has happened. But Wednesday, November 1st, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, we're going to be talking about next generation endpoint management and protection solutions and strategies. Again, that's going to be a very interesting conversation, digging into that endpoint management, talking about security that's top of mind for everybody. Wednesday, that's tomorrow, November 1st at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So be sure that you come back and join us for that. All right, my friends. Well, thank you so much again for joining us today. I hope that I get to see you all again soon. And until then, I hope you have an absolutely beautiful and spooky Halloween.